Hello, everybody, and welcome to Empowered Conversations. Today, I have a very special guest who is here to tell a remarkable story of triumph and perseverance based upon the realization of powerful self-worth. And it's a very sombering story, and I'm excited that she's here. I'm so honored that she's here to share her story. Kayla Henderson is my guest, and she is a mother of 6 who was in an abusive relationship for 15 years. At one point, she didn't leave the house for 3 years. And a way in which he was able to control her was keeping her pregnant. Everyone, please help me in welcoming my guest, Kayla Henderson, as she's here to share her story with us. And this could get emotional. Hey, Kayla.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
Yeah. So, I was I introduced I told a little bit about you to my audience. And, I just so appreciate you being here to share this story. I remember, meeting you a couple weeks ago, and, just your openness and your willingness to be transparent and authentic. And I just saw the power, like so much power and empowerment in you. And I'm so glad that you're here to share this. So I guess I'll just start by, with the question. So tell me, like, I remember the day that I walked up to the room and was telling you why don't you you can hang out in the living room. I'm going to be gone, blah, 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 blah. I won't be working, at my computer, and you're welcome to sit in the living room. And that's when you said, well, you know what? I'm used to like sitting in a room. I was at home for 3 years. So just start. Tell us your story.
Yeah, it didn't start out that way, and they never do. What you have is that honeymoon phase, so to speak, where they have that other mask on and just kind of adorn you and shower you and just make you feel like it is just the perfect relationship ever. But once they feel like they've got you trapped, got you stuck, that's when things change. And it's not like it happens fast. It's subtle, and it's little things over time, because once they realize, oh, I can get away with this, they level up, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So yeah, I mean, at first it wasn't so much like that. It was a all around good, solid relationship, but it really started happening, I would say, when around the time we got married. I didn't want to get married. I was pressured into it. It was not something I wanted to do. I was young, pregnant with our second child. I even to this day, I'll tell you, like in my gut, I felt like I should not be doing it, and I did it anyways. And it's just little things that lead you up to that point where you're just looking. I mean, one day you just sit there and realize, like, I haven't left this house in 3 years. All I own is pajamas. Like, it just seems surreal. You just ask yourself, like, how did it get to this point? How did I allow this? So yeah, I mean, it's I don't really know what to.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, so it sounds like your ex-husband is the classic sociopathic narcissist.
Yes.
So, and a narcissist, like, there is a complete lack of self-awareness and self-value and a feeling of self-worth for a narcissist, which is why they always take their power from other people. And so it's like, once he felt like he had you, that's when he felt comfortable to allow the lack of self-worth and the ugliness he felt within himself to start hurting you.
Yeah.
So I remember you sharing with me. So tell me. So you're on with your second child, and I remember you telling me that you were being pressured, but there was something in your gut. So why do you think that, like, you just gave in and said, okay, fine, I'll marry you?
I think it was just because I was young and being pressured by everyone around me, and it was mainly his family. They were just really pushing for us to get married, and I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And at the time, I just kept telling myself, oh, you're just nervous, you're just, this is normal stuff, nothing to worry about, and there at first part of the marriage, it wasn't that bad. But after, I can't even tell you how long, it was just a few months, really, it just changed. It just completely changed. And then at that point, you want to keep your family together, and you feel like they make you feel like it is your fault, like you have
Right.
caused every single bit of it. And
Right.
so you're scrambling in your brain, like, how do I fix this? How do I correct, this situation I've created? And you just continue to just let them take advantage of you, and you don't even realize it.
Right. So I remember you sharing with me, like, tell me about his sister. Tell me the story about what his sister was trying to do for you behind his back.
His sister Athena, she kind of knew more than anybody else of what was really going on behind closed doors, and she would constantly, but take me to go get birth control and just get us out of the house, get us away from him, because she knew what was going on. She didn't know the depths until after I had left, but she knew. And she would constantly, like, because I was not allowed to have birth control. So after I had my daughter, she was taking me to go get my depot shots every 3 months. She would just tell him, we would be like a planned, oh, I need her to ride with me to the store type thing. And we would just go get my depot shots to keep it from happening. But eventually, it did stop happening. And it just, you do things like that because you're trying to progressively stop what is happening in the home. But at the same time, you're so scared because if you get caught and it blows up in your face, that it's going to be 10 times worse than if you didn't do it in the first place. But you can't help but, I couldn't help but at least fight back in some way, just to be like, I can't continue to let this happen. There's something I've got to do. And at some point you do reach a level to where they just knock you down so bad that you feel absolutely powerless and useless, and just like not even a full voided person. They treat you like an object, as property, and you eventually don't feel human no more. And when I hit that point, I remember feeling that way and just watching everything that he was not only doing to me, but to our kids. And I was just like, this can't be my life. Like, I cannot keep living like this. Like and allow him to do these things. And that's just kind of where my fuck it button got hit. And I
love that.
I was a bitch. Like, I ain't even gonna lie. Like, I was.
Bitch is a good thing. Babe in total control of herself.
So it just hit that point where I was just like, I'm not gonna let you do this anymore. You know what? You want to fight? You want to argue? You want to do this? Bring it. And I would constantly intervene and make myself be the object of the attention, where he was not focused on the kids. I constantly, put myself in that position to show him, you're not going to continue to do this to them, and I'm going to show you that I can stand up for myself, that you can't do this forever.
Right. Well, I know you shared with me. So when you were at home, like for instance, for those 3 years, and because I know a lot of women or women who are in these types of physical, mental, sexual abuse situations with a man, they have their control to where they have little contact with the outside world. And I remember you sharing with me, like, you weren't allowed to have a smartphone.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed a phone at all whatsoever. And if I did have a phone, I could only use it through his hotspot when he allowed it. And I wasn't, and he had it set up to where my accounts were on his phone too. So he got real-time messages when I did. So anytime anyone talked to me or sent me any type of anything, he received it at the same time I did. He knew everything that was going on, absolutely everything. So it was one of those ways of just, I used his sisters who knew kind of what were going on, and just kind of use them as a way to kind of beat around the bush of certain things. And they would come over, to check on us or just to see how we were doing. And that was just how we would have, get some peace and quiet for a few hours to a
Right.
couple of days.
Now, was he doing drugs? Was he drinking alcohol, or was this when he was sober?
He has never been sober the whole time I've known him.
Okay.
So he was an alcoholic when we had first met. Of course, he kept it very hidden, and I did not really know about it. I knew that he liked to drink because he did it occasionally, but I didn't know it was as frequent as he was doing it. Later on through the years, it was after our second child is when he started meth back up. And so he was doing a lot of meth. And there at the end, when I left, he was doing what they call speedballing, which is where he was shooting up heroin and meth together.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And one of the things that you shared with me. So tell us about when you had that epiphany. Just you share the story. I don't want to.
Oh, you're good. We had actually gotten into a fight. We were homeless. We were living. I mean, there's no other word for it than a trap house. I mean, there's no other way to describe that. And we had gotten into an argument, and I know, like, I went to leave, just to leave the room that we were in. And that's when he attacked me, and he pushed me onto our bed. He straddled my chest, started strangling me. And at first I just knew this was it. I just knew I was going to die. Like, that was just what was in my mind. Like, and I remember the thoughts running through my head. I was like, I cannot leave my kids with this man. Like, it just cannot happen. Cannot.
Right.
And he got off of me. He finally let me go and got off of me. And I remember I was just kind of like, just running through my head, like I can't live like this. I can't live like this. And I turned away from him, and our youngest son was actually sitting on the bed. He had watched everything happen, everything. He was not even 2 at the time. So, yeah, that was the eye opener for me. That was like, I'm not doing this to them. I'm not doing this to us no more. This is even, it don't matter what kind of situation it has got to be better than what we're in right now.
Right.
So the next day, while he was asleep with 2 babies, that's when I got his phone, and I just started contacting people and telling them everything. I took pictures of my neck. I took pictures of the stuff he destroyed, and I was like, we have to get out of here. We have to leave. And I still remember even in that moment, I was too scared to even call the cops. I was so afraid. Like, I was just scared to death that he was going to wake up and find out what I was doing and take the phone and just, it'd be it. And I remember my cousin was the first one I talked to. We were like sisters growing up. And she was like, and I'm sitting there telling her everything. She was like, I'm calling the cops for you. She's like, you're scared. You're confused. This is all this stuff he has done to you over the years. He's like, he's got you just believing that this is just the wrong thing to do, to call the cops on him. And she was like, no, Kay, you have to get out. You have to take the babies. You have to leave. So she called the cops, and we left that night, and they ain't been back.
Right. So, share with us. So, okay, so you left, but then you did have some people telling you, that you were not going to be able to do this, like even your own mom.
Yeah.
So go ahead and.
Yeah. So I had an older sister that lived about 2 hours from where we lived at in Georgia. It's further south, and she took me and all the kids in. And I mean, her heart was in the right place to help us to get out of the situation. But she is an older woman, and with the kids and the kind of chaos that they were used to, it was just too much for her. And I remember during those times is when I was really starting to get to see other family and start to reconnect and build relationships. And that's when, I started seeing my mom again. First time I'd seen her in like for almost 4 years at that point.
Wow.
And yeah. And, she was telling me, she was supporting me, and she was like, this is going to be hard. This ain't going to be easy. You're going to feel like giving up. You're going to feel like going back. You can't. And I was like, well, no, going back's not an option. That's not an option. Like, I will live under a bridge first. This is not an option.
Yeah.
So, I voluntarily put me and the kids into shelters. And of course, the shelters are not really, the programs in them are great or wonderful, but they are not built for a family of my size. They're really built more for a woman with up to 3 kids or a parent with up to 3 kids,
Mm-hmm.
that to come in as a single mother with 6 kids and the programs that they have is realistically it's not possible. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just 30 days to, to get a job, get an apartment, get on your feet. Yeah,
Right.
okay, you can accomplish that with 3 or less kids. When you have 6, it's a different picture. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember at that point, when I'm talking about the stuff with my mom was just like, well, Kayla, you're just gonna have to fess up and just know you can't do this on your own. You're gonna have help. And I was like, well, yeah, I get that. That's why, there are these assistant programs to help you on your feet. And she was like, yeah, but in the long run, those can't last forever and you're not gonna be able to do this on your own. She was like, you can't handle 6 kids on your own. You're gonna have to get help. You're gonna have someone, there to financially support you guys. And I mean, and I remember just how bad that made me feel. It made me feel like she was there telling me that I couldn't accomplish this on my own. And it made that determination even more. I
Yeah.
was just even more. I just wanted to be like, watch me,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So I remember, because so again, like women, from what I understand, women in this situation, like I remember you telling me a story of being at one of the shelters, and you would like, be an inspiration for other women. Like you can't let tell me like when they were talking bad about their significant other that was abusive in front of the kids. Please share that because I love
Yeah.
that.
So these shelters, most of the time they are homes or big buildings where every room is where a family goes, their mom, children, their stuff. That's what happens. So you share the common areas, which is like the living room, the kitchen, and the play area for the kids. And it was a common factor, for the adults to get together and tell their stories, and the kids tell each other stories and talk to everybody. But there was a lot of times you would hear the women in there just bad mouthing their significant other. And it's like, I understand that they put you through a lot and that what they did had no reason, no excuse at all whatsoever. But in the end of the day, that is still their father. That is
Right.
still their parent. And everything that they've been through, they don't need to hear that on top of it at all. Like it's stressful enough. Not only what they've been through, but now you're in a shelter. They're in an area that they don't know, because a lot of times the shelters that they send you to take you out of the area where your abuser's at, so that way
Right.
there's less likely to be contact. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're already changing school systems, and you're already being stuck with a bunch of strangers, people you don't know, and it's a tough situation for an adult, let alone a child. And then just to sit there and hear the parent talk about them like that, even in a situation, whether they did or didn't abuse the child, it doesn't help the kid at all
Right.
whatsoever. Like
Right.
that's something that you need to send them. And I would tell these ladies all the time, like, don't do it in front of the kids. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
playroom back there. Send
Mm-hmm.
them to the playroom, watch them through the window, and then sit here and talk all the shit you want. Like
Right.
they hear
Yeah.
enough. They hear enough.
Yeah, I love that you were able to have that mindset
Yeah.
in the bigger picture,
Yeah.
even through what you had been through. So I know, hearing the other women's stories, what, and as well, combined with your story, what advice? Because again, it's like I have a friend who's been in an abusive a relationship for over 20 years, and there's nothing you can say to her that would get her to leave because he's beating her down like a dog, like a whipped dog, so bad. And it's the self-esteem that's just completely obliterated. And it's like, what is one or two or 10 things that you could suggest just for women, or anybody in an abusive situation, to realize how much worth and value they truly have just for being on the fucking planet.
Right. I mean, you're a human, and you deserve to be treated like a decent human. And
Yes.
and the things that they tell you are not real, and they're not
Mm.
true. But to be honest, I mean, you can sit here and tell them 1,000 different things to make them feel empowered, but what it all boils down to is them.
Their own self.
When
Yes.
once you can't make someone leave a situation that
Mm-mm.
they're a part of. I mean, you can't, and no matter how much you preach to them about how bad it is,
Yeah.
they're still not going to listen to you. And some of the most important advice I'd ever been told from a lady from from an abusive relationship. What she told me, she looked at me, she said, "You're not going to leave the situation until you're ready to." And
Right.
that's all there is to it. And she was like, "You have 100 different people come and tell you 1,000 different times the same thing repeatedly." And she was like, "But until you're ready to step away, you're not going to do it."
Absolutely.
And I think that's the hardest point for people in those relationships, is because they're constantly listening to their abuser and what their abuser says, and you believe it. Like you hear it so much, you believe it to your core that these things are true, and you just don't have the personal power to actually look at the situation from a different point of view or an outside stance and be like, you know what? No, I deserve more than this. So
Yeah.
I guess you just got to hit that breaking point personally.
Yeah.
Because I know through the whole years that I was with my ex, tons of people come to me saying and telling me all sorts of crap. And I was just so convinced and so brainwashed that I didn't listen to nobody. And it really just took me having my own epiphany to be like, no, I'm worth more than this.
Well, yeah, and it's almost like that mama instinct took over when you thought you were about to die, and it's like this will to live and to put your kids in a. When he was choking you,
Mm.
for you, it sounds like there's no fucking way I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna die and leave my children with this human being.
Yeah, no.
I just wanted to share with you. I am getting some comments. A couple of them say Facebook user, but there's a wow, and then another one saying good for you, Kayla. I know you can't see the comments. Nicole Queen says strong mama, and another Facebook user says, like, I'm sorry, but this is. She says, I have a friend who just left an abusive relationship after 17 years. It was hard to watch through the years, but she is so happy now. And yeah.
It is hard to watch when you're an outside person looking in, and especially when you've been through a situation like that, you see those red flags.
Yeah.
You see them, but them on the inside, they don't. They don't see it at all whatsoever. There's this internal war inside of you where you are in love with the idea of what this person can be and what you deserve to have. And you just feel like if I do enough, if I am enough, if I can be enough, they will change for me. And that's not how that is not how it works. They're not going to change unless they want to. And 9 times out of 10, they know exactly what they're doing. And they just
they haven't realized their own epiphany of their own worth and value, because when you love yourself and you realize your worth and value, you treat others in that same manner.
Oh yeah.
You know. So but you're in a great spot now.
Oh yes.
And yes, and well, I haven't met your children. I've seen plenty of pictures, and they're absolutely adorable. And it's just so fortunate for you and them that you left that situation, and now even if it's one woman that you're able to empower or plant some sort of seed within her, that one day she has that epiphany and she leaves that abusive relationship. And this could, I know that guys can be in abusive relationships as well. So not to discount any men that are, but this is, mostly it is women.
Yeah.
And so, how are the children? Do y'all have open conversation? Do they remember? Do the guy, the little boy that was almost 2, who watched him do that? Do you think he remembers? Or
I don't know about remember. I know that when we first left, that it was hard on all of us, extremely hard on all of us.
Of course.
On I know me, like for the first couple weeks, I was an emotional roller coaster. I was all over the place. And then finally I would just, my sister was playing with the kids downstairs, and I was making phone calls upstairs trying to find us a shelter and stuff to go to. And then it just kind of hit me. I was like, you know what? I have to be strong, not just for myself, but for them, because they were having a really, really hard time. And when we first left, my 2-year-old seeing that happen to me what it had caused with him is that he had not hit that realization yet that mommy and him were different. We're two separate people. He still saw us as one person. So when we had first left, I could not get without of eye shot of him without him just screaming and crying and pitching fits so bad that his face was blood red. His lips would turn blue and purple from holding his breath and screaming. I mean, he would literally just have a flip fit, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when we first went into the shelters, you know, we had started the whole counseling and thing, and I was looking into all this stuff, like how can I help my kids? You know, like I have to put myself on the back burner because they are what's important right now. So I just started focusing on, okay, so this is what's wrong with this one, and just taking it one child at a time and getting a notebook and saying, you know, just writing stuff down. And with Dylan, my youngest one, he was affected the most because of that last situation where he saw everything happen. So it took months of working with him for him to realize that we were two separate people, and it was okay for mommy to leave the room to be out of eyesight because I was coming back. Right. Regardless, I was coming back. And I remember like the first few weeks it was hard because he would come running behind me, screaming like that, just tears were rolling down his face, because if I wasn't carrying him, he didn't feel safe. And it was just a process. I mean, it broke my heart to have him screaming and crying like that behind me and at my feet and stuff. And I felt so bad. And the other shelter moms, you know, did their best to help out with him, but he didn't like strangers. He especially did not like men at all whatsoever. Yeah. He was terrified of them. And he just saw it as, if I don't see mommy, if I'm not touching mommy, then something's going to happen to her and she's not going to come back to me. Right. And that was hard, and it was heartbreaking. And I know with my older kids, it was more of an anger thing, because it was like they knew what had been happened to them was wrong and that they shouldn't have been through it. And they just didn't know how to express all these emotions inside of them. And once we got in these shelters, I was just telling them, like, look, this is a safe place. Everyone here has been through what we've been through to some degree or form. It's like some have had it worse. I was like, some have had it less. I was like, but they all understand what we're going through. And you can't hold these things in. If you're not comfortable telling me what happened, then you find someone else you are comfortable with and you tell them. Yes. I was like, you can't heal if you don't tell your story. Like, you have to talk about it. That's the only way that you're going to heal and grow from this, is if you tell someone. So, because they told me, my oldest son, Axel, had told me that he felt bad telling me what they had gone through when I wasn't there and what I didn't see, because of what they knew I went through. So they felt like they were putting more on me by telling me. So that's when the staff and the other parents, you know, were like coming forward. The kids were making friends with them. And I was just like, tell them. So I had actually had other moms in the shelter coming and telling me, oh, your kids are telling me all these stories that they've been through. And I cried. Like, I'm crying over the stuff they're telling me, and the fact that they're being so open. It's like, Mama, you're doing this right. You're getting them to talk about this and not hold it in.
Kayla, that is so wonderful, because they're taught at that early age that will carry throughout their lives, and that will be so powerful and impactful in their own power, realizing their own power to create their life and to persevere through obstacles and challenges and bullshit.
Yes.
You're incredible. Like, I remember we sat here, I think, for 2 hours, and I was just overwhelmed by all the insight that you were sharing, that you cultivated and created and realized within yourself, your own power, and how you were talking with your kids and to your kids and sharing. It's just such an inspiration, like such a happy ending story of getting away. And I'm sure, even at the core, at the deepest part of you, you want him to get help.
Yeah, I do. You know, and I was just discussing that today. I was like, you know, I had a temporary protection order against him, and it lasted for a year. And I was just telling her, I was like, you know what? If he had just followed that order and stayed away, had been a decent human and actually tried, I probably would not have went after the permanent protection order at all whatsoever. Because
Right.
then I would have seen it as, you know what, he's trying, you know, and he deserves it. He deserves the chance to fix the situation with his kids, because
Mm-hmm.
that's ultimately what they want. And but I mean, he just kept on to the point that I got the permanent one. And even still, you know, I just can't help but hope, like, one day that he will see the error of his ways, fix it,
Mm-hmm.
and try to fix and have a relationship with his kids. Because I mean, the older four still have very vivid memories of what happened, and they
Mm-hmm.
want nothing to do with him, nothing at all whatsoever.
Right.
But the two younger ones, they don't remember. They don't really remember what happened, what went
Mm-hmm.
on. And so in their eyes, he is still just they're still the perfect dad. They see nothing wrong with him. They don't see what we see.
Mm-hmm.
So I just can't help but hope and pray, you know, that he will fix himself to where he can have a relationship with them, because I know that's ultimately what they want. They want him
Mm-hmm.
to be the dad they deserve, not the dad he is.
Right. Yeah. So, any other revelations or insight, you know, that you can share, that just, if there's anybody. Okay, so there's also a link that I provided, and every time I shared about this, so there's a link that you can click on, and it's about getting help. But
Yeah.
when you X out of it, it does not show. There's no cookies. It doesn't show that you were ever on that website. If there's anybody here who is in an abusive relationship or knows someone in an abusive relationship, um, and you're ready to say, you know, I want out. Like, I deserve better. I am better. Please click on that link. But like I said, you had your sister-in-law. You know, you had,
Yeah.
and just your perseverance for, like, this cannot be my life.
No, no. And I know, like, when I first left, I felt sorry for myself and I felt ashamed. And
Yeah, I
I
can.
just remember just all these bad negative feelings I had about it. And then at one point it just hit me. It's like, you know what? It's like I'm not letting what happened to me define me. Like, this
Exactly.
is just a chapter in life.
Yes.
And I'm going to look at it and I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to grow and I'm going to heal and I'm going to get up on that next level. Like I just I know one of the things I hated the most was this people feel sorry for you when you're in those
Right.
shelters. Like, as the
Hmm.
staff and the other people, they're constantly saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry you do this." And I remember I hated when people said that to me. I was just like, you know, you have nothing to be sorry for at all. Like, you weren't involved, you had nothing to do with this, you didn't know
Hmm.
about it. You know, it's like I can be angry at myself for allowing it to go on as long as it did, but at least I finally stepped up and got out, and I didn't continue to stay in that situation. And I looked back on it and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a life lesson. And
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to take it as that. And I'm like, this is something to learn from and
Hmm.
just move on. It's a chapter in life. Move on to the next one. And
Hmm.
I just, I know those girls in the shelters, you wouldn't believe how many go back to
Right.
their abusers. And
Hmm.
it's just, they make excuses for them and reasons why they did it and say, oh, well, he wouldn't have done it if I didn't do this. Oh, it's my fault. It's my fault. No, it's not.
No, the hell it ain't.
They know exactly what they're doing and they know what you're going to allow them to do. And they're going to continue to just take it up a level every single time, because the more you allow them to get away with, the more they're going to take.
Right.
It's not, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
roller coaster.
Yes. Well, Kayla, again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And, like, you never know where this is going to lead you,
No,
what you can do for other women in the same
no,
situation to help facilitate their leaving and getting out,
yeah.
and having what they absolutely deserve, and what belongs to them, which is a good life,
Right.
a good, happy
Right.
life, a safe, feeling safe, feeling loved, self-love, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can
So,
find it all in yourself. Like, you
absolutely.
don't need somebody else. And that was something that I get through in the shelters, because you don't know how many women was like, oh, you're gonna have to get your man, pay for all them kids, da, 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 da. And I was like, watch me do it. Like, I can do this on my own, and I will do this on my own. But I did used to joke around and tell them all the time, like, I just get me a sugar daddy.
You say what did you just say?
I would joke around and tell them all the time I was just gonna get me a sugar daddy.
Oh, you're gonna get a sugar daddy. Okay, yeah, you cut out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, but you know what? There's healing in humor. I have a couple girlfriends that one's name is Pasha, the other one is named Siobhan, and they're phenomenal. And yeah, but they do this healing, through healing your trauma through humor.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to make those jokes and to laugh at that, not necessarily making light of the situation like it didn't happen, but
Right.
to bring about a better way of feeling, because you know your reality is completely different. But to
Right.
look at that situation and heal through humor, yeah. So, but that's so true. That's so true. Like my autobiography, I talk about a lot of painful stories, but they're shared in a comical way.
Right.
And, you know, so, but,
I'd rather laugh and smile than cry. I tell you
absolutely.
that. So definitely. So yeah.
And you have so much to be proud of yourself, and just being like, look what I did, like what I did, what I realized about myself, my worth and value, and how much the love for myself and my children. Look what oh my God, Kayla, like,
and it's hard when you first leave too, because your brain is so conditioned to that environment, and you have to realize the things that you're doing that you don't realize that you're doing. Hold on a minute, I got the door locked.
Okay. We might get to meet one of the little kiddos.
But it's things that your brain is just like conditioned to, and you don't even realize it. And it's one of those things you just got to break the cycle on, because you know your abuser conditioned your brain to react, to think, to respond that way, and you've got to not only acknowledge it, but you got to turn around and you got to turn around and be like, okay, how do I break this cycle?
Right.
So I was constantly like, I realized that I was, you know, I started off in a negative state of mind, and even after I left, my brain was still like, oh, you can't do this, oh, you can't do that, because I was so used to not being able to, because of repercussions. So what I did, the way I broke free of that, I was just like, you know what, I was never allowed to do this, I'm gonna go do it. And I was never allowed to go do this, I'm going to go do it. You know, it helps you to break out of that cycle, because you have such this feeling of empowerment when you do it. You're just like, yes, I made that choice, and I did this, and look, there's no repercussions, and this is a normal human life. Like, and it's one of them things that where you just constant, like I was a negative person a lot, because my abuser was a negative person. So anytime I caught myself in those negative thought processes, I would just stop everything I was doing and go, no, we're not going to think that way. And I would start saying positive things, not only whether it be about myself or the situation or whatever I could think of. I'd be like, nope, for this one negative thought, one negative comment, I'm going to have 10 positive things I'm going to say. And it's just a way to recondition your way of thinking and response, and the that are in your head, to just change it entirely.
You are taking the personal responsibility for your own mindset, because your mindset creates your life.
Right.
You have you just have no idea how much I celebrate you. Because so many people who haven't even been through a quarter of what you have see themselves as the victim. Everything is happening to them instead of through them. And they're always blaming something outside of themselves or someone else for what's going on, instead of reflecting, which is what you did. You went in and said, no, that is not true. I can. Because whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right. And you created that mindset. I hope you write a book. I hope you create a course. I hope wow.
Yeah, I turned around and did the same thing to my kids. I was like, as I was doing it to myself and I caught them doing it, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. That's not how we live anymore. That's how we're doing it now. And
Yes.
I mean, I got them doing the same thing. And so now, I mean, to see them now versus when we first left, they're completely like 180 kids. You would never look at them and think that they were in that kind of situation. And they're very open about it too. Very open about it too. Like
Love it.
my 7-year-old JD, he will walk up to a complete stranger and be like, "Hey, my name's JD. You know my daddy abused me," and then just bleh, word vomit. Just go to and then so now the fiance that I'm with, we have to like, oh, not him.
Right.
Because they don't specify, they don't differentiate, but they don't express that the two are two different people. So people
Right.
just automatically just kind of look at him, and I'm like, no, 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 no.
I'm telling you. Oh, I see what you're saying. I got you. Dusty, that's right. Yeah, Dusty is so sweet. And, you know, again, it's like your children and their mindset as children, it's going to carry throughout their lives. And, you know, I've said this, and I've said this on other episodes of my podcast, is one of the biggest things that I think we need to implement into every single school system around the entire planet is an hour a day, alongside spelling and arithmetic and history and PE and science and lunch, an hour a day of self-empowerment, self-growth, self-worth, personal empowerment, personal growth, whatever. I don't like to say self-help or self-improvement, because there's nothing to help, there's nothing to improve. It's about self-realization and the power of what you can do when you realize your own personal power. And I think if we started children as early as they can understand language, because there are kids in situations like what yours were that don't have a mama who leaves, and or even worse, or even worse, unfathomable circumstances, and they grow into thinking that that's what they are, and then they carry that throughout their life. Right. Fortunately for your children, they've got this amazing freaking mama that woke up and realized and went like, "Oh, I don't be thinking so."
Yeah.
But it's like, and that's just it's necessary if we're going to have a successful planet. You know, because at the end of the day, every human being wants to be happy and have a fulfilling life. It's just that so many don't know how to actually create that, because they think it's coming from outside of them.
No.
Instead of from within.
All right here.
Every
bit of it.
God, I love you. You're so fabulous. God.
Make the most out of the situation, and you gotta. I mean, I'd rather look on the bright side, look positive at everything and everything. I've dealt with enough negativity my entire life. I don't want to do it no more. So even in the grimmest situations, I'm like, well, there's always this, just look on the positive side. And the kids do it too, and I absolutely love it. And I love their mindset on life now. It's completely different than when we were in that situation when we first left. And the bond that we have together is just, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, Kayla, again, thank you so much for being, coming on and sharing your story. And even if it helps just one person, or I hope it helps a 10 billion myself. Well, maybe there's not 10 billion, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're
saying. I'm just so grateful to you for coming on. And, if you were on my personal page watching live, and I was able to see comments, if you were watching through my group, I wasn't, or I was streaming through YouTube as well. So again, if you know someone who is in an abusive relationship, please share in a secretive way in which they'll still be safe the link that's provided where they can get help when they're ready. And, if anybody else, I haven't seen any questions come through. Just everybody's celebrating you, Kayla. The comments are like, strong mama, hell yeah, awesome. But again, thank you so much. And thank you everyone who had joined today on Empowered Conversations. And yeah, I'm just going to end there. I'm just thankful and grateful for you, and I'm thankful and grateful for everybody who was watching with us and everybody on the replay. And if you watch on the replay and you have comments, please celebrate Kayla, and if you have questions, you can reach out. I'm sure they could reach out to you personally if they don't feel comfortable commenting, but we're here. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your Monday, and thank you for joining Empowered Conversations.